and a once beloved game developer's reputation is in absolute freefall.
Yep.
What was at one point probably the highest rated developer in the industry, a studio that pumped out classic after classic, has now become the home of incomprehensible horror. Corporate greed, broken promises,
California sues Activision Blizzard alleging culture, sexual harassment. Yeah. Activision Blizzard investigated Blizzard and found Activision Blizzard didn't do anything wrong. This will forever be, and every company that says this or does this is the most hilarious thing to me. Genuinely. Like, genuinely, it's the most hilarious thing. Because they're just straight up like, yeah, I did nothing wrong. I don't know. Like, my people are fine. Don't worry about it. Like, they're lying. How would you know when I'm the company and I know we did nothing wrong? So, like, you know, get bent.
Simple horror.
Fight bad guys in game, fight bad guys IRL. Women voices matter. Yeah, everybody's voice matters. Although I think this might be about the whole milk situation. Activision Blizzard CEO enabling misconduct. You mean the guy that threatened to have somebody killed over the phone? That's crazy.
Corporate greed, broken promises, botched releases.
Please stop happening.
Stolen breast milk.
The Warcraft Reforged.
Broken promises, botched release.
Was one of the most upsetting things in recent gaming history, I think. Recent gaming history. I was excited for it because I never actually played the Warcraft games. I wasn't a huge RTS gamer. I've always been more of an MMO and more of a shooter kind of person, so I played a lot of like early Call of Duties, a lot of early Halo, and like RuneScape and Diablo 2 and stuff like that. I never really played a lot of RTS, so I was actually excited about this game. It's upsetting with what actually happened with it, right? Like, from something that was huge to potentially one of the greatest remakes, and it was just horrendous. Which, by the way, not that they can't make good games, because D2R was wildly successful.
Stolen breast milk. This is the story of Blizzard Entertainment.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
The year is 1991, and three guys have just graduated from the University of California.
All right.
Alan Adham, Michael Morhaime, and Frank Pierce. They get together to create a game development studio in Irvine called Silicon and Synapse. The name is deeply philosophical and well thought out, with Silicon representing the building block of the computer, and Synapse the building block of the brain. However, people keep mistaking the silicon part for the material in breast implants.
Holy fuck. It sometimes amazes me how stupid the general public is, right? Guys, silicon is not the same as silicone. They're not the same product.
Anyway, they spent the first few years porting games to different systems, but soon begin producing their own original games.
I actually didn't know
with
that.
The Lost Vikings in 1992 and Rock and Roll Racing in 1993.
Wasn't Rock and Roll Racing like really successful? Wasn't it wildly successful? For the time, anyways?
Eventually, they get sick of constantly being mixed up with women's breasts, so they decide to switch things up, changing their name to Chaos Studios. However, a company based in Florida already has the trademark, and are now asking for $100,000.
Ooh. Stuff like that, I feel. I mean, I guess you couldn't just Google stuff back then, but they still had like copyright lawyers, right? So I feel like that was just not a very great decision.
They then decide to change the studio's name to Ogre Studios. But in 1994, they're acquired by a holding company for a few $1 million. And turns out, Their new owners aren't a fan of the new name. Okay. So they flip through a dictionary, and, oh my god, there it is. In 1990,
I wonder if that's true. Like, did they really just flip through a dictionary and see the name Blizzard? Like, is that really how that happened? Because if so, that's fucking hilarious.
1994, Blizzard releases their first self-published title, a real-time strategy game called Warcraft: Orcs and Humans. And it's an instant success.
1 second.
It's one of the earliest real-time strategy games to hit shelves, and it's a blast. It also has a modem and LAN multiplayer, meaning people can get together and go ham. And the game does well, selling 100,000 copies in the first year. And for the first time, Blizzard Entertainment is profitable. They follow it up with Warcraft 2 in 1995. It's another home run. Critically,
Yeah, Warcraft 2 was crazy. Like, I had friends growing up that would only play Warcraft 2. And then when Warcraft 3 came out, I had friends that would only play Warcraft 3. Like, the RTS genre was... I mean, coming from a time that, like, didn't have any interesting games or thought-provoking games, the RTS genre was really a huge step forward, right?
acclaimed, and now selling over 1 million copies in its first year. Nice. It's now 1996, and a company called Condor Games is looking for a publisher for their nearly complete game, Diablo. Blizzard has a little look, and they like. So they buy them and rename them Blizzard North.
That was the best decision they could have ever made, unironically. Because if they didn't make this decision, we wouldn't have games that we do today. Regardless if you think they're good or not, we wouldn't have had the games or experiences that we would today if they didn't actually end up doing this. Which is nuts to think about.
It's also at this point that Blizzard notices something.
Just
Warcraft
off
2
of
has
chance.
picked up a lasting online player base, mostly through third-party networks that connected players over this magic new thing called the internet. So they decide to make their own, Battle.net.
Battle.net was also wildly successful for the time and for what it was. Being able to have your own launcher for this, and then being able to connect with like a lot of other people was such a huge step forward. And I can't imagine, again, if they didn't do this, where they would be at today. I mean, by now they probably would have had their own stuff.
Its original functionality is very simple, with the ability for players to chat to each other and search for a match.
Yeah, this, again, I'm going to probably say this a few times throughout the entire video, this was such a huge step. Being able to actually talk to people that were in another fucking part of the world, just online, in a game like this was insane for the time. Right? Like, the companies that were doing, there wasn't any other companies that was really doing this for the time that this was happening. There wasn't very many anyways.
But on December 31st, 1996, it launches alongside Diablo, and people log on and play. Diablo is a massive hit,
Yeah,
also
wildly
selling
successful.
over 1 million copies within its first year.
Which again, back then was insane because everything then was word of mouth. Like, you didn't have all these game journalists, you didn't have all these things that people were actively consuming online. It was stuff like in the newspaper or like gaming magazines that you'd find at Walmart, or strictly through word of mouth, which is what brought these games success, nothing else.
In 1998, Blizzard launches StarCraft, an RTS set in space. It sells bigly and quickly grows a massive esports scene. Diablo 2 launches in 2000, another smash hit.
I don't know for certain, but I would like to see, maybe I should just look this up, but I'd like to see the numbers between like D2 and StarCraft, and then potentially StarCraft 2, because I know StarCraft 2 was what started the esports scene. Or maybe not what started it, but what popularized it at least, right? At least for this style of game. I don't know when the first Counter-Strike came out. I think it was late 90s, which also helped propel everything into the future. But like I would like to see the numbers as to what was more beneficial for the company between D2, StarCraft, and StarCraft 2. Because I don't know how successful Diablo 1 comparatively was to Diablo 2. I personally started with Diablo 2. I have played through Diablo 1, but Diablo 2 was the start for me.
It reaches almost 3 million sales by the end of the year, becoming
That's
the
insane.
fastest selling PC game of all
Yeah.
time. In 2002, Warcraft is back, and now it has an extra dimension.
Yeah.
Warcraft 3 sells 1 million units in just 1 month, immediately becoming the new fastest selling PC game.
That was a lot for back then. I mean, right? Like the fastest selling games, because Warcraft 1 and 2 were already so successful, people were anticipating the next game and people knew what to look for, right? But it's kind of funny with how internet culture is today and how review culture is today. How little that is today. Like selling 1 million copies in your first month would be such a colossal failure, and it's funny to see the paradigm shift there.
Game. It also releases with a campaign editor, which spawns a series of popular mods like Defense of the Ancients.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that Dota came from Warcraft 3. At least, I mean, maybe some of the older gamers do, but a lot of the younger guys don't. Dota was a Warcraft 3 mod. And I remember I mean, this is probably going to be talked about, but they tried suing the people who made Dota, or they tried to take some sort of legal action against the people who made Dota because it was using their IP.
And after its expansion,
Which I'm pretty sure they lost.
It's all hands on deck for Blizzard's next project. The year is 2004, and Blizzard is getting ready to release its biggest game yet. They'd seen how big MMOs like EverQuest were getting and thought they'd try their hand. And after $60 million and 5 years of work, it's finally near.
$60 million. I'm a little interested to see when was this? Like 2002?
MMOs like EverQuest were getting and thought they'd try their hand. And after 60...
I'm kind of curious. Let me just... Inflation calculator. Let's go USD. I'm kind of curious what this actually is. So I think this is what, like 2002? Let's go 60 mil. That's a lot of fucking money. That is $103,500,000 in today's money. That is absolutely insane.
$1 million and 5 years of work, it's finally nearing release. And in November 2004...
Which, by the way, to put that into perspective, Suicide Squad was about 100 mil.
World of Warcraft.
And it was a much worse game.
And it takes the world by storm, smashing even Blizzard's forecasts. There are so many players trying to log on in the first week that their servers have a complete meltdown, with server queues reaching the thousands.
I find it funny that the issues that they were having then are the exact same issues that we're having today, right? Look at last Epoch at launch, server issues constantly for the first like fucking week. Helldivers 2, server issues constantly for the first week. Even the new releases for Blizzard, granted they've gotten a lot better, like substantially better. There are times where there's server issues. And I don't know if it actually is server issues or code issues, but there's issues on launch all the time for huge companies. Shadowlands wasn't that bad that I remember, and Dragonflight wasn't that bad either. But look at the Diablo 3 launch. Like, that's renowned in the gaming sphere as one of the worst launches ever, because people couldn't play the fucking game from Era 37.
Get past the queues and actually into a game? Well, now you're greeted with a ton of latency issues and a probable disconnection, meaning you're now back on that queue screen. after the initial server problems are ironed out and people can actually play, the game sucks people in en masse. Fans are very enthusiastic.
The game sucked people in en masse because you could look somewhere, see a character moving around, and understand that that's a real person. Right? And that was not something that was ever seen in a mass style before, minus EverQuest. Which I don't know if anybody has seen gameplay of EverQuest, but it looks like shit. Like, on top of being able to see other people running around in-game like this, in the graphical fidelity that classic WoW had, was such a huge, huge, huge milestone in gaming.
It hoovers up awards left, right and centre, and sells a ton of copies, reaching almost 6 million sales by the end of its first year. World of Warcraft isn't like your average game though. Instead of simply buying a copy, players have to pay a $15 monthly subscription fee to play. 6 million times 15 every month.
Which, by the way,
Blizzard isn't doing too badly.
I hate when
Everyone is
this
paying
happens.
the game.
By the way, you have to give props for Blizzard for not really upping that price, right? Like, in maple syrup bucks, I spend around $18 a month, which is, you know, true for what it's always been. Because I remember buying those 2-month, those 60-day cards at Walmart, and I would spend, I think, $29.99 on those. So you really do have to give props to Blizzard for not upping the price that much over the years. Because we really could be spending $30 a month, and people would still pay that shit.
Ads go on to feature a ton of celebrities.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
And others like Vin Diesel, William Shatner, Henry Cavill, Mila Kunis, and Dave Chappelle announce their addictions in various interviews.
Yeah, this was unintentional, but it was some of the best marketing I think they could have ever done. Like, all of these major celebrities coming out and being like, yeah, I'm like addicted to this fucking game and I can't get off, is some of the best marketing I think they ever had. Because of these people who were looked at like gods from the regular people were addicted to this. Because people really do look at celebrities like gods. If they're fallible to it, then it must really be good if their career is suffering, right? Some of the best marketing they could have ever had unintentionally.
World of Warcraft is everywhere.
God fucking damn it!
What I love about the South Park episode is I'm pretty sure to this day it's still their best episode ever released by, like, objectively from a numbers standpoint.
World of Warcraft would also...
I also remember them not wanting to put that out because they thought it was going to fail, like, massively. I remember reading that the studio that put out their episodes didn't want to put that one out because they thought it was going to fail. So it's kind of funny.
result in the launch of...
Although it's also funny in the way that also shows... just because you're in a place of power doesn't mean you know fucking anything about what people want, so...
BlizzCon in 2005, a massive annual convention that would feature big musical acts and announcements for Blizzard's future games. Fans could also ask the devs questions, and were sometimes even featured. At this point, Blizzard is among the all-time greats of gaming. Every game...
I think they still are. And I think it's hard to say that they're not. Just based off of numbers, like taking away all of their mistakes that they've made throughout the years, I think just based off of numbers alone, they're probably still one of the giants. 100%.
Smash hit. They could do no wrong. But first, flying a plane is easy.
Okay.
Just get in, flip
Sure.
a few switches, and
Sure.
you're off.
That's not what I thought that was.
It's even
Okay.
easier and a ton of fun. Jump into intense PvP that takes you from the ground to the sea, all the way to the skies.
Sure.
In fact, War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game of all
So many people are getting
There's more than 2,000 of them. Someone
money
that
from
likes the
this
small
game.
and agile.
I'm kind
or
of
a
thinking
fan
I want to
the
look
more
at it
voluptuous.
because it's free to play.
War
I think,
Thunder
right?
has something for everyone. The game is deep indeed, with a dynamic damage system that damages individual components.
I think seeing that is so cool. I think being able to see like the actual damage that you do to like the people inside and the components inside of the vehicle, I think is some of the coolest stuff. And I kind of wish more games like this. Like I don't even know if World of Tanks is still a game that people play, but they didn't have anything like this.
And a huge customization system.
And by the way, I'm going to say what I said earlier as well, is because they're going so realistic, it does, unfortunately, it will, I haven't played the game, but it will create an unintentional meta where just because newer vehicles are more technologically advanced, it just will create a meta. So I'm not, again, I haven't played it, but I don't know how they work around that. Like really what's going to win, right? Like an F-16 or a fighter from World War II? Like, what's really gonna win, right?
Hundreds of camos, historical emblems, and over a century
Yep.
of vehicles to pick from. And their models, painstakingly detailed to 100% accuracy, which you can enjoy in gorgeous 4K graphics.
Nice.
And
Good,
you can play
good.
on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC for free. Fancy a large bonus pack with all this stuff? Just sign up through the link in the description or the pinned comments below.
I like that this game just straight up is the new Raid Shadow Legends. It's just everybody has a sponsor from them.
The year is now 2006. World of Warcraft has almost 10 million active subscribers and is bringing in a ton of money. So naturally, it had turned a few heads. One of those heads, Bobby Kotick.
Bobby Kotick
CEO
himself.
of Activision. Now in 2006, Bobby Kotick, CEO of Activision.
All of the games behind him are so good. Guitar Hero 2, maybe not, but Guitar Hero 3, so good. Underground, so good. Both of those first Call of Duties were so good. All of these old games are so good. Maybe it's just nostalgia talking, but I would love for games like this to make a comeback. They never will, unfortunately, even just via remaster. Like, I'd play a Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty 3 Big Red One, Call of Duty 2, even a World at War. If they could remaster World at War and do it right, not like they did with the original Modern Warfare, where it's online only and there's no campaign. And I believe they did with Modern Warfare 2, the old one, or they did something with it, I can't remember. I don't know, I just wish there was some sort of return to form, and there never will be, which is really unfortunate.
Now,
and again, maybe it's just nostalgia talking, but damn do I miss those old games. Or maybe I just miss being a kid, who the fuck knows.
in 2006, Activision had made good tracks in just about every genre of games, except one. And one that was not.
I remember, I think it was on the Nintendo 64 Spider-Man, or the GameCube Spider-Man, I can't remember, where you couldn't go to the ground because it was just green poison everywhere.
Now booming. The MMO.
And it was such a smart way of them doing it because they didn't want to like put civilians and like people on the ground and cars going by.
With Warcraft currently bringing in over $1 billion a year in subscriptions alone, he's interested. Now at this point, Blizzard has changed hands numerous times and is now owned by a company called Vivendi.
As a lot of big companies do.
Vivendi with a proposition.
As a lot of big companies
Vivendi receives money.
Okay.
Activision receives Blizzard. However,
that's a pretty good deal. Oh, okay.
Instead, Vivendi offers to merge their gaming subdivision with Activision, with Vivendi owning a majority share in the resulting company. And after a brief hesitation from Kotick, in 2008, the deal closes. Activision Blizzard opens its doors with Kotick as CEO, and Activision and Blizzard, now its two subsidiaries. Blizzard would supposedly retain most of its autonomy and keep their CEO, co-founder Michael Morhaime. It's now 2010, and
Okay.
Blizzard has gone from just under 500 employees before the launch.
Holy fuck, I totally forgot about this. So, Blizzard thought it was a good idea to do Twitter integration into their Battle.net. So, I remember you could like take like a screenshot, right? And then you would have the ability to upload it to Twitter, which is fine, whatever. I wouldn't have ever used it. But that means that the Real ID system that they wanted was going to be tied to their Twitter. Which means that their real name and everything was going to be... Oh, man. It was... I remember this being resolved in a matter of days as well. I believe days. He's going to tell me in like 30 seconds. But I remember this was resolved and decided it was a horrible idea within days. It was the funniest fucking thing. The amount of outrage that this caused.
Launch of World of Warcraft to now over 4,600, the majority of whom are preparing for the launch of StarCraft 2 in July, and the third major Warcraft expansion, Cataclysm, in December. Now these launches were
Cataclysm
not
was a good
small.
expansion.
Warcraft had been hitting peak after peak of players, and was now at 12 million monthly subscribers, and StarCraft 2's sales projections are also sizable. But Blizzard currently has a problem. Their forums. They're a little bit toxic. Blizzard has a big team of moderators, but
I'm pretty sure what happened, right? Like let's do a little bit of roleplay for a second, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna be the guy that like put it forward, okay? So they're like we're just sat here talking, and I was like, hey, what if we do this? And then without thinking, one of the top people was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. So they go do it, and then this fucking guy gets all of his info leaked in a matter of hours, I'm pretty sure. And then the whole decision was deemed a bad idea. Two days afterwards, this happened so fast, and I'm sure most people forgot about this.
according to them, this still wasn't enough. So behind the scenes, they get brainstorming, and someone has a brilliant
What a
idea.
stupid fucking
How
idea.
about we just force everyone that posts on our forums to use their real first and last name?
What a stupid fucking idea. Imagine this was in like Call of Duty, right? Holy shit.
And in July 2010, Real ID is unveiled. And people absolutely...
I actually don't mind the current integration of Real ID, where you can only add someone to Real ID if you, I believe it's if you have their email address or something like that. The fact that you can, I believe you can right click on somebody and add them to Real ID through that, I think is a really bad idea. But like the current Real ID integration, I think is perfectly fine.
hate it. So in an attempt to sell the idea to players, Blizzard's community manager posts his full name on the forum. See guys, it's fine.
I do respect the thought of this. I do respect it. However, fuck, it was a bad idea. Fuck, it was a bad idea. I do respect the idea of it though.
But
to be
almost
fair.
instantly, people descend on the forum and get
Within
to
hours,
work.
I think.
And within mere minutes,
Oh, within
they find
minutes.
and publish his home address, phone number, age, Facebook, family names, and a list of his favourite music and movies. Okay, you know what?
Yeah,
Fair
like
enough.
what did you really
And after just a
expect?
few days of being announced, Real ID is scrapped entirely. By 2009, the Warcraft 3 mod Defense of the Ancients had gained a significant following, and had even spawned a whole new genre of games, MOBAs. For much of that time, Blizzard had paid little attention to the mod or the game, but the success of the recently launched League of Legends could no longer be ignored.
I really wish they didn't just ignore it. But at the same time, I'm really happy they fucking did. Because I don't think Blizzard would have done this genre justice at that time. I don't think they
And
would.
Blizzard finally steps in, starting work on their take on the genre, titled Blizzard Dota. Around the same time, and Valve wants to make their own MOBA. They'd hired the head dev of the original Dota mod, snapped up the Dota trademark, and they're calling their new game Dota 2. Blizzard is furious. So in 2012,
Yeah, I imagine that's so
they
much money
file a
that you lose.
statement of opposition, arguing that the name Defense of the Ancients was associated exclusively with Warcraft due to it being made in their map editor. However, this argument has issues. See, the mod was created in Warcraft 3's map editor, but that map editor had no specific terms and conditions on ownership of said maps.
It does now, though, doesn't it? Yeah, this is just kind of a big L. It really is. And I believe this whole issue was dealt with fairly quickly. Because if you don't have you don't have any legs to stand on here, right? I don't know.
IP and concepts. They end up settling out of court a few months after, with Valve getting the commercial rights to the term.
A few months, to be fair, is quite quick. It really is, because stuff like this can last years.
Dota, and Dota 2 releases in 2012.
Yeah.
It's massively successful, and goes on to be an esports giant. Blizzard gets non-commercial use of the title for its community, and renames Blizzard Dota to Heroes of the Storm, which releases in 2015.
This is why I say you can't trust Blizzard in this situation, because Heroes of the Storm was a fucking failure. Nobody plays it. Who gives a fuck about it?
And support is canned 3 years later.
Yeah.
Blizzard would change
nobody
its
fucking played
licensing
it.
agreements for all future games to include their ownership of player-created maps in an attempt to avoid this ever happening again.
Which, by the way, is really smart of them to do. However, there are some situations where I think they went a little bit overboard with it.
It's 2012, and the massively anticipated sequel to Diablo 2 is looking like it's releasing this year. Its development had been a bit rocky, with its dev team, Blizzard North, being canned in 2005, along with their version of the game. But on the 15th of May 2012, the rebooted Diablo 3 launches. The game is horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, they took the original developers that made Diablo what it is, got rid of them, and then made their own version of Diablo, and it was a colossal failure. I mean, it was not a colossal failure. It was a failure at launch. Right? And I also fell for the... So if you bought a year subscription to WoW, you got Diablo 3 for free. And I think amount that I can't remember as well, you also got that for free. So I was playing WoW anyway, so I bought a year anyway, and I got the game, and I was so upset with it. I didn't care for it in the slightest.
For one, its launch is horrific. The game is online only, and turns out there are massive server issues. People are spamming their login details over and over, only to be kicked out by Error 37.
Yeah.
What's worse, there's no queue system in place.
I'm surprised he didn't show the boogie clip. Oh my god, the boogie clip is... I think one of the more famous clips in older gaming history.
So you have to manually retry every minute.
Potentially just as big as the Leroy Jenkins clip. Actually, that's not true, because the Leroy Jenkins clip was on like Jeopardy and stuff. But the Boogie Error 37 clip is so good.
This issue takes over a week to fix. Then there's the auction house. Here, loot can be bought and sold using your mum's credit card. Activision Blizzard gets filthy rich, while the balancing gets obliterated.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this wasn't as big of an issue as it was made out to be, right? Like, I didn't personally make any money off of it, but I don't know. If you want to buy and this fucking happens today anyway, if you want to buy the best gear with money, just who gives a fuck? Like, I don't fucking care what other people are doing. However, I think they would have been well to split up leaderboards with, if you have used the black market auction house and purchased a piece of gear, you were put into a different leaderboard. But I think maybe them getting rid of it in Reaper of Souls was the best thing to do.
Endgame content is also essentially non-existent.
Yeah.
However, the game sells almost
That is not actually true. It's just the endgame content was so fucking hard. Only one person killed Inferno Diablo. Only one person, and it was Creparian and his friend. Only one person killed pre-nerf Inferno Diablo. So it's not that endgame didn't exist. It's that endgame was so fucking hard nobody could clear it.
4 million copies in its first 24 hours, and over time, slowly makes a turnaround. In 2014,
I'm curious as to how many that 4 million in 24 hours was of the yearly subs. Maybe that's public information, but I would be curious as to know how many they actually sold versus how many were put out because people bought a year of WoW.
real money auction house is closed, and Blizzard launches Reaper of Souls, an add-on praised almost unanimously. They're ready to make
Almost unanimously because they got, I believe they got rid of trading, and a lot of people were pretty upset about that.
a second add-on to the game, but management says no.
One huge issue that Diablo 3 had, which by the way Diablo 4 has the same fucking issue, is balancing. It's very interesting how some classes can clear content and others just can't. Like, Demon Hunters were so fucking strong. Demon Hunters were clearing content other classes couldn't touch. It was a very interesting dynamic.
Apparently,
Again, which modern Blizzard still has the same fucking issues. They've never been great at balancing their games, let's be honest.
executives see the game as a massive failure and demand devs jump ship. The year is now 2015. The past 10 years had seen massive expansions to Warcraft, including controversial changes to the game and its mechanics, and player numbers reflect that, now being in steep decline. A growing number of players long to go back to the days of vanilla, version 1 of the...
I really wish Blizzard would release their numbers. I really wish. Because the only things that we really have to go off of is Twitch and like Google Trends, which aren't that great. Because Twitch and Google Trends only account for the people that are actually consuming content for that game, which is a very small amount. Most people who play WoW are just casual people who just like doing fucking, like, people who are hard stuck at Mythic +5. People who do pet battles as their main content. People who do LFR as their main content. These are not people who are consuming online content. So it's very, very hard to know, like, how many people are actually playing the game. It's not possible to know.
the game, back in 2004. One fan even floats the idea to Blizzard themselves at BlizzCon 2013. Here's how that goes.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then?
No.
Okay then, we'll just make one ourselves.
Alright, so that's such a big thing that happened, and obviously everybody knows of that. But again, it really is just a classic example of the devs thinking they know what you want. Like, it's so out of touch. It's crazy. It's crazy how successful Classic is and how many add-ons that they've had. Like, actually putting out TBC and Wrath. I wish they would have stopped at Wrath, by the way. I don't agree with them going in through Kata, but I mean, it is the obvious choice financially. And then them having Season of Discovery, which never would have existed. Them having Jesus Christ, I'm sorry. Them having Classic Hardcore, which never would have existed. You have all of this content that's being made about your game, which is free advertising, which never would have existed, ever. You've made a lot more money because of this, which you would not have made. I don't know, it's like, the better thing to say there would have been, no, we haven't, like, considered it, but, you know, maybe this is something we can talk to the community about. Or no, we haven't considered it, but we have seen a large uptick of want for something like this. So maybe we might, spend the next 2 years talking about it instead of just saying, no, you're fucking dumb.
And
Like,
the
that was
fan-made
such a bad...
Nostarius vanilla server goes online in February 2015, running version 1.12, a month after the original launch. It's not long before the server gets massively popular, with almost 1 million accounts registered. It's also not long before Blizzard catches wind and brings the hammer down.
I remember the shutdown videos of Nostarius where they were all like, I would see videos of people just walking around Ironforge in a huge train as like their final moments and stuff like that. It was actually quite a sight to behold.
Lawyers sent them a cease and desist in 2016, and the server is promptly shut down. Realizing they were completely wrong about vanilla Warcraft, Blizzard do a full 180 and announce Warcraft Classic in 2017.
That's crazy how the developers didn't know what their consumer base wants, because they don't look at the consumer base. That's crazy. It's crazy how these people can make the game and then not look at what people want. It's crazy how they can do this stuff and not look at even the forums.
Back in 2007,
I've never understood that.
Blizzard started work on a huge MMO called Project Titan. It was described as a combination of Left 4 Dead, Team Fortress, and The Sims. But development led nowhere, and 6 years later, the plug is pulled. A massive failure on Blizzard's part.
I remember that because I was reading all of this stuff as it was coming out because I was playing Call of Duty at the time. So I was still giving them my fucking money. It just wasn't for WoW.
Major internal embarrassment. However, the team behind it would attempt to rework the remains of the story and assets into another project, and in 2016, Overwatch hits shelves. And
Overwatch was so big. Overwatch was so
critically
big.
acclaimed across the board.
It made so much money.
Massively popular, quickly becoming one of the most popular esports titles on the market.
100%.
That, paired with their genre-pioneering card game Hearthstone back in 2014, that now has almost 100 million players, and Blizzard is looking...
I remember... So Hearthstone came out in, I think, 2014? Did they say a year or no?
Esports titles on the market. That, paired with their genre-pioneering card game Hearthstone back in 2014.
2014, yeah. So I remember I would skip class. Because I was in grade 11 at the time. I would skip class and I would sit in the library and all I would do was play Hearthstone. That's all I would do all day. I loved Hearthstone when it came out. I don't care about it now. It's changed too much. I just wanted like a basic card battler, right? Just a basic card game that I could play. I played it so fucking much, and the fact that it was in the World of Warcraft universe made it so much better for me. Because I had played WoW since 2007 at that point, right? Like January 2007, I've been playing WoW. So being able to see another game within that universe, I was so fucking happy.
That now has almost 100 million players, and Blizzard is looking strong. However, there are problems brewing. See, Overwatch was the last big game they'd had in the pipeline for a while, and they realised they don't have much to show off for BlizzCon 2018. So Blizzard rushes to find...
I don't think a studio that puts out basically only live service games needs to put out a lot of games. I think they need to put out a few games that do really well, like World of Warcraft, and just focus on that. Like, you only need a few IPs that are actually good to like constantly make your company money. Because you're not, it's not like Call of Duty is now a live service game, but it wasn't. So because it wasn't, they were putting out game after game after game after game, right? Like every single year. Where now every game is tied into each other. Blizzard can't really do that because WoW is a live service game, which was taking most of their attention. Diablo 3 at the time was a live service game, which had their own entire team. Hearthstone, I don't think at the time was a live service game, but it is now, which takes quite a bit of their attention. Not anymore, because, you know, nobody's really playing Hearthstone. And Overwatch is a live service shooter, which had their own team and took a lot of their attention. So I think the mindset of needing to put out games all the time for a company like this is not the correct thing to do. Just straight up.
And something to show off. Got it. Fast forward to November 2018, and their presentation is ready to go. They sprinkle a few niche announcements here and there, like a remastered Warcraft 3, but they have
Which
one
is a
big
failure.
announcement centerpiece.
The BlizzCon 2018 was so bad. It was so bad. The games they announced were so bad. People were so excited because they thought they were getting a new Diablo game, which, you know, coincidentally they did. It just wasn't the game they wanted. And the Warcraft 3 Reforged, people were fucking massively excited for. Like, people were so happy about this game because of the promises that they had. And then the content they put out was so fucking bad. And none of the promises that they had, they delivered on. Like, they were going to be putting out new story content, which they didn't. They were going to be upgrading all the models, which they didn't. If you had Warcraft 3 on your computer, it got overwritten. So you had to play Reforged anyway. You had to, unless you somehow played around with the file. I know that there were some ways to not do it, but they made all of the wrong decisions. Diablo Immortal was a huge success financially for Blizzard, but not for, you know, your average. Diablo Immortal was not a success for your Diablo enjoyer. It was a huge financial success for Blizzard.
After
Because they didn't even fucking make it, Tencent did.
6 long years, a brand new Diablo. For mobile.
Like, look, Diablo 2, come play the mobile game that has nothing to do.
I'm amazed, honestly. It's this bad. This is fucking insane. I don't even know like what to even say about this.
Just was wondering, is this...
Unironically, I think Diablo Immortal would be perfectly fine if it wasn't as pay to win, or if there was a cap on the pay to win, as people think. I unironically think Diablo Immortal would have been fine if there was a cap on pay to win, or if there was a way to actually bring your character up free to play, which they say there is, but it takes fucking, what, like 100 years or some bullshit of play time to get anywhere free to play. I think just some design choices they could have done differently, which I don't know how much a fault of that is because of Blizzard versus Tencent, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a bad product.
an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
We don't have any plans at the moment.
I also feel bad for this guy because clearly he wasn't, like, as far as I know, he's just a developer, right? Like, he wasn't a public speaker. You know, maybe I'm wrong about saying that, but like the amount of backlash he specifically got, I don't think was warranted. He was just the face for it.
To do PC.
Which they got a lot of backlash for, and they obviously did end up doing PC.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
You know how you can tell this guy's not a public speaker is because that was a natural reaction. That was not a scripted reaction.
The game eventually launches, and it's bad. Firstly, it's not even developed by Blizzard, but their Chinese partner NetEase.
NetEase, not fucking Tencent. Sorry about that.
It turns out, it's monetized to the tits. It costs over $500,000 to max out a single character, and becomes the worst rated game ever on Metacritic.
Blizzard wasn't fucking mad. They made bank and ran away with it. Blizzard was not upset with Diablo Immortal. Maybe publicly they were upset, but, you know, in their rooms, let's be honest. They made fucking bank and they left. They don't give a fuck. Right? Like, come on. Let's think about it for a second.
By 2018, fans are noticing something. Activision Blizzard had been creeping, and Blizzard was changing. See, back in 2013, Blizzard had bought back the remaining Vivendi.
I have to piss again. Sorry, I'll be back in a second.
These shares for about $7 billion, meaning they, and by extension, Bobby Kotick, now had complete control of both Activision and Blizzard. Fast forward to 2018, and this creeping had only got worse.
It's crazy how fast everything happened, hey? Like 2018 taking control of both companies to 6 years later being completely gone. Isn't that crazy how fast that happened? To me it is. Because he had been running it since fucking like early 2000s, right? Or late 90s? It's crazy how fast that
Because of
happened.
the slowdown in game releases, Blizzard's revenues are taking an absolute nosedive. So Blizzard steps in. It pushes the company to cut costs and gets them to produce games at a faster pace, with Kotick apparently installing his own executives within Blizzard to ensure that happens.
Yeah, I mean, from like an actual... Take all of your emotion and thoughts about the games and everything out. From an actual business perspective, that was the correct thing to do. Like, if a company is not succeeding, you need to step in and you need to put people in who are going to do what they need to do. Unfortunately, you know, quality suffers because of that. In a games company, right?
Apparently, tired of Blizzard's meddling, Blizzard co-founder Mike Morhaime steps down as president and CEO and leaves the company after 27 years of work.
That is insane.
He's succeeded by Warcraft's executive producer, J. Allen Brack. This guy.
And by the way, you don't want to...
J. Allen Brack went from a 35-year-old developer to a 75-year-old developer in the span of like 3 years. Holy shit. The amount of stress and everything that was put on him, probably from executives from Kotick, but also the inheritance of what the company was going through at that time, I cannot imagine how stressful that would have been. Like, that's crazy. And it kind of makes you wonder how much of that Mike knew when he left. Like, was this like common knowledge that all this shit is happening, or was it really hush hush within the company? I don't remember if that came out or not, but damn.
to do that either. You think you do, but you don't.
And as soon as this happens, we accelerate. The company immediately prioritizes cutting costs, and the Heroes of the Storm's development team is outright annihilated.
Again, from a business standpoint, this was the correct thing to do. There's no point in paying employees to work on a product when that product has failed. Right?
It's
Every single company does this. You cannot villainize Activision Blizzard for that.
Sports League is also scrapped right before its 2019 season. As a
Yeah.
result, entire teams, commentators, and support staff are suddenly left jobless. And despite 2018 being a record,
I think this is when regular people started to see that Activision Blizzard has no fucking backbone with how they handled this, and outright lied about their reasoning for it. Outright lied.
year for Active Blizzard profits, they lay off 800 employees, almost 10% of the company.
That's a lot. But I'm talking about the Free Hong Kong issue. That whole thing that was happening, not this.
They begin rehiring the exact same jobs a couple of years later. So going into 2019, people are not happy. But turns out, over on the other side of the world, and things are happening in Hong Kong, they're not good.
I mean, this is what I meant when I was saying that a majority of people think they don't have a backbone. They handled this so poorly and then outright lied to everybody, like stuff wasn't fucking all over the internet. Like,
Their government has proposed a bill that would give China more authority over them, and that's not too popular. At the same time, Hong Kong native Blizz Chung
yeah, and I don't
is
know.
participating
There's just
in Hearthstone's
nothing else to say. Like,
esports
it's
league.
the whole situation is
He
fucking
uses
pathetic.
the post-game interview to show his support for the protests. But as soon as he says it,
Yeah.
something happens. See, Blizzard has a huge player base in China,
Yeah.
and to keep that player base available to them, they have to bend over backwards for the Chinese government. So when this happens, they go scorched earth. They take the livestream down seconds after he says it, slap him with a year-long ban, and even confiscate his prize money. Even the guys casting the stream are fired. It's not long before the
Was it maybe the correct thing for them to do at that current situation? Yes. It's what they did afterwards, though, with like backing up with what they were saying and backing up with their decisions. It's just pathetic. It truthfully is.
internet catches wind, and people are furious. At one point, even Congress members have a go. After a few days of pressure, J. Allen Brack eventually comes out. He reduces the ban to half a year and grants Blitzchung his prize money back. He also says that Blizzard's relationships with China had no
Yes, it did. Anybody with, like, even just their brainstem that fucking works knows that it was because of China. Because there's literally no other reason they would have done this. Right? Like, if it was another reason and they just didn't like what he said, it would have been a slap on the wrist. It would have just been a ban. It would have just been a 6-month ban, or it would have been something a lot more minor. It's fucking obviously had everything to do with China and their relationship with them. Obviously.
influence on their
I don't know why they thought that this would work.
decision. Blizzard is starting to look seriously not cool.
No, they're
so they
starting to look like
decide to
fucking
go into
idiots.
BlizzCon 2019 with the big guns, announcing Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. Also, that Warcraft remaster they'd announced at the infamous 2018 BlizzCon
got pushed back,
is coming
I
out
think.
next year.
Yeah.
This'll be
They fucked up so many things with that game, and then they still had the fucking audacity to push it back without delivering any fucking content that they did. Fuck that game. Just fuck that game.
good. Back in 2015, Blizzard had set up a subdivision to remaster old games,
Yeah.
the first of which would be Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
And in January 2020, the highly anticipated remaster launches. And
Yeah.
oh boy, the game
Oh
is
boy.
beyond
That's
terrible.
that's something to say.
Here's why.
Oh boy.
Before launch, Warcraft 3's advertising touted multiple new features. Over 4 hours.
And none of it was in the fucking game. It was supposed to have a new story. It was supposed to have all of the cinematics redone, which is what it's showing now. Everything was supposed to be upscaled to better quality, and it was just really shit. Like, there's just actually nothing else to say. It was just really, really, really shit.
Hours of cinematic new cutscenes, more story, and new voice acting. And a complete campaign overhaul, changing the story to be more in line with the current Warcraft lore. But when...
Which would have been cool, by the way, if they somehow incorporated like current WoW lore into it. It would have been really cool, and it would have been a way for players to get WoW lore without having to read the books. Because that's what you have to do, is you have to read the books to get lore that's happening inside the fucking game.
Players log on. Turns out, absolutely none of this is in the game.
Yeah.
This is after being advertised on the website for over a year.
Yep.
There's also a ton of features from the original Warcraft 3 just outright missing. Here are a few of them. No ranked play.
No.
No profiles.
No.
No account stats.
No.
I don't know how you remaster a game, and by definition a remaster is supposed to be better than the original, correct? And actually put out a worse product. Like, they could have imported everything into Unreal 5, put that out, and it would have been a better product than what they put out. It's a fucking joke.
No custom campaign.
No.
No clans.
No.
No cross-region play for custom games.
No.
And no offline play.
No.
It's possible after a few patches, but it's a little complicated.
Like, they straight up could have just made the graphics better. That's all they could have done. They could have only done the graphics. And people would have been happy.
Also, after some digging, people...
Which, by the way, is what they did with D2R. Right? Like, they added in some seasons and some other stuff. Like, some like, minor stuff, some new rune words. And, like, very, very, very minor content, really just in the form of rune words. But D2R is the... Aside from that, is the exact same as it was. I don't believe they've balanced anything. But D2R really was just a graphical update. That's really, at the base of it, all it was. And people love D2R. It was a massive success.
People realize the main...
I love D2R. I grew up playing Diablo 2. And the D2R remaster was awesome.
Menu background is actually a Chrome-based web app, and is taking up more of your CPU power than the actual game.
I don't know how they do this. I really do. What a time to pause. I don't know how they do this. I really don't. Like, it gets to a point, right, where you start thinking this has to be on purpose. It has to be on purpose. How are you as a developer, with all of your knowledge in tech and all of this other shit, how would you not realize this? And by the way, why would this be put in to begin with? Why would this not just be... I mean, I don't know how these backgrounds are typically done, but I assume it's just like a GIF or something like that. Not like an entire other program. It's not like they're using Wallpaper Engine to put the fucking thing in there. I don't understand it.
Online matchmaking
Maybe I'm stupid, but I just don't understand it.
sucks and kicks you out all the time. This is without a way to reconnect, by the way. Graphics are worse than advertising.
Didn't they have competition or fucking... What the fuck am I trying to say? Like competitions, and they were getting disconnected like mid-match. Was that not a thing? Because I remember that happening. I remember that being a point of contention for a while.
Treason! Have you lost your mind, Arthas?
The new art direction is bad. 5 of the game's maps are exactly the same as the original, and poor optimization, tons of crashes, and countless bugs.
Yeah, Again, they could have just upscaled the fucking graphics and everybody would have, okay, 99% of people would have been happy, right? Like, did we need new story? No. Would it have been nice? Yes. All people wanted was a graphical update. That's all people wanted. That's all they had to do to make a successful game.
On top of all of that, Reforged is a mandatory update for everyone with the original game.
Yeah, that's
Only
also
original
completely
with no
bullshit.
intention of upgrading. Well, here's an additional 30 gigabytes of install size anyway. All of this amounts to one of the worst launches of a game in history. Within a few days of release, it ends up...
Isn't it funny how they're still upping themselves all the time? It's just in the negative direction. They're still upping themselves all the time. It's crazy.
at 0.5 out of 10.
And by the way, you can see this on Activision's side as well. Because, like, what's actually happening in Modern Warfare 3 right now? Who the fuck knows? But the first Modern Warfare, like the first remake that was put out in, I think, like 2019, was huge. But what the fuck's happening in the new MW3 that was just released? Who the fuck knows?
On Metacritic. At the time, the lowest Metacritic score in history, before being dethroned by Diablo Immortal.
This is what I mean. They keep upping themselves, which they're really good at upping themselves, just in the opposite direction, like in the direction that people specifically do not want.
So naturally, hordes of people pile in to request refunds.
Yeah.
But wait, you've booted up the game even just once? Sorry, you're not allowed. There's so much outcry about the game, however, that Blizzard eventually caves and starts actually granting refunds. The game is so bad that...
It's so unfortunate that this is happening more and more and more. I really wish it wasn't. I really wish games were coming out as bad as they are. Because I want good games to come out. I want Blizzard to succeed. I feel like I'm not in the minority there. I want Blizzard to succeed. I want them to put out good games. Everybody that's a Blizzard fan, that's an actual Blizzard fan, wants them to put out good games. I want D4 to be good. I want WoW to be in a better state. You know what I mean? There's no genuine Blizzard fans that wants Blizzard to fail. Like real Blizzard fans. They don't want Blizzard to fail.
The entire classic games division at Blizzard is completely canned.
You're fired. Get out.
Again, that's kind of upsetting because D2R was good.
It also causes an upcoming Diablo 2 remake to be pushed back more than a year.
I'm so
it's
happy that they still
Blizzard's
push that out.
reputation is currently abhorrent. But luckily, Overwatch 2 is just around the corner.
Oh my god, everything that's surrounding all of their recent releases. Like, how do you fuck up? Release after release after release and not think something needs to change. I don't get it.
Hold on a sec. Oh god. Turns out that over the last 2 years, the California Civil Rights Department
crazy
has
to
been investigating Activision Blizzard due to multiple reports of sexual harassment from staff. And by July 2021, they had enough evidence to file suit. The lawsuit states that sexual harassment, unwanted advances, and groping are common within Blizzard, both before and after the merge. This includes the mention of an executive.
This whole situation is really weird, right? I don't think anybody's just gonna disagree. I mean, I'm sure there's fucking weirdos, but I think 99.99% of people will agree that this is just a bad situation, right? Like, this is just weird. Also, this is not local to Blizzard. This is not like, it's not like if you work at Blizzard, you're a bad person. This is just, if you're a bad person, you do these kind of things. It really is just that
Suite
simple.
at 2013's BlizzCon. It's not a nice place. In fact, some employees literally dub it the Cosby Suite. Then there's the alleged...
Which is kind of funny, right? Like, I feel bad, I really do, for everybody that was affected. But at least they can name things funny.
The paying of women.
Again, the situation is not funny, just the name. Just the name of it is.
Complaints to both HR and the president repeatedly being ignored. But there was something else. The employees' breast milk. It keeps being stolen.
I'm pretty sure this was like one or two situations, right? Like, I don't think this was a common occurrence. Right?
In the lawsuit, more than one employee alleges breast milk theft. It was very clearly breast milk, in baggies with a baby's face on it, a former producer claims. One day, I went to retrieve my pumped supply at the end of the day, and it was gone. The fallout is monumental.
I also think maybe there's a better way to do it than just leaving it in the fridge. Obviously, we don't know how it was kept in the fridge. And I'm obviously not defending the fucking people who took it. That's weird. It's disgusting. Just don't fucking do that. And I'm also not blaming the fucking... Okay, like, let's immediately get that out of our heads. I'm not blaming the women either. But if it really was just in baggies, you know, maybe put it in like a lunchbox or something. I don't know. I'm not putting blame on anybody. I'm just saying, like, hey.
Mental, and makes headlines industry-wide. Few people are spared. Current Diablo 4 lead, gone. His character's name in Overwatch, also gone. Level designer on World of Warcraft, gone.
That was maybe a good decision.
Head of HR, deaf.
That was also probably a good fucking decision. Like,
gone.
let's
Warcraft League gone. J. Allen gone. Their chief legal gone. The Wall Street Journal also alleges that Kotick knew about the whole thing, ignored it, and in some cases, even jumped in himself. He denies most of the allegations.
I did not.
Right, which is the best thing for him to do. Like, you don't want to be like, yeah, my company's a cesspool of fucking degenerates. Like, you're not gonna come out and say that, right? So...
But eventually apologizes for a one-time instance where he left a voicemail threatening to have his assistant killed.
Which is so much worse than, like, the original thing, right? Like, that is so much worse than the initial incident.
That's all fine then. Water under the bridge. Sponsors like T-Mobile, Coca-Cola, Kellogg, IBM and Pringles also all jump ship from the Overwatch esports league.
Well, yeah,
and
they
Activision
have to.
Blizzard is hit with a class action lawsuit on behalf of its shareholders.
What?
Overall, the situation's not looking great. Activision Blizzard denies most of the claims, and in June 2020...
Again, as I said earlier, of course you do. Of course you do. Like, that is... Of course.
2. They investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing.
Yeah, of course.
The immediate reaction to Overwatch 2's announcement was one of confusion. Overwatch 1 was a monetized game with a thriving player base and regular updates. The kind of game that doesn't need a sequel. So this was a strange move. Overwatch 2's development would also mean the end of support for Overwatch 1 in
This is another example, just like the Warcraft 3 Reforged. This is another example where they didn't deliver on a single fucking promise. And I don't...
2020, with us seeing no new Overwatch content for multiple years, essentially killing the game. What? But with Overwatch 2, Blizzard reassures us it was all worth it. Just look at all this new stuff. 5v5 instead of 6v6.
Didn't people really hate that? Like, wasn't that a really bad thing for them to do? I'm pretty sure it was, right?
Tiny new graphics, balancing changes, map reworks, 6 new maps, 3 new heroes, more than 30 new skins, a new game mode, a battle pass and cosmetics shop, and most importantly, a PvE campaign. People had been longing for a story in the Overwatch universe, and now it was finally happening.
Yeah, I think they should have put out a PvE mode. It's just what they did was like one mission, and then you have to pay for the other ones, I'm pretty sure.
And it was ambitious.
Yeah.
Blizzard shows off a full campaign, along with hero missions, talents, and massive skill trees unique to each hero. Hundreds of missions at launch, they announce. A truly replayable campaign. And don't worry, with Overwatch 2, Blizzard tells us they were redefining what a sequel really means. Overwatch 1 players get all the new maps,
like, what the
updates,
fuck does that
and
mean?
heroes that released in Overwatch.
Like, what does a sequel mean? A sequel is just the next game, and this is literally just the next game. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Overwatch 2, and both player bases can crossplay together. The purchase of Overwatch 2 essentially only granting the PvE mode.
Yeah.
Okay, sold. Players are on board. 10th of March 2022, and Blizzard has an announcement. Look, we know we said hundreds of missions at launch, but, well, it's taking a while, so we're just...
Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry I have to go to the bathroom again.
gonna release the game now without it, and add it later. Then in June, they come out again. The game's now free to play, and launching in October. But anyway, on the 4th of October 2022, it goes live. There are some issues. Events are bad, tons of balancing issues.
Yeah, and then, so I'm pretty sure what happened is the PvE content that was released, it was like one mission, and then you had to go through the other thing just to get like more content, right?
The looking for group feature is now just completely gone, but mainly, there's the new cosmetics system. In Overwatch 1, earning cosmetics was simple. Just play the game, level up, and earn loot boxes that give you skins.
Yeah.
You could pay for them, but that was completely optional.
Yeah.
In Overwatch 2,
which is how it
things are
should be.
different. Blizzard has now slapped on a seasonal...
I am perfectly fine with loot boxes if you can still earn everything in the loot boxes. I don't have any objective issue against loot boxes.
Battle Pass system, where the bulk of cosmetics would now be unlocked. There's also a rotating store, and the prices there aren't great. You can unlock skins for free through the challenge system, but there's a problem. It takes about 8 months to get one. A simple character recut.
Yeah, 8 months for one skin is far too fucking long. And like also another thing you have to understand is like all of the currency in this game is like it's so the numbers are so random. Like how much is 2,600 fucking Overwatch bucks? Why is it not 2.6 million Overwatch bucks? Like the numbers, they don't matter. Why is it not 2 Overwatch bucks?
Color takes almost 4 weeks. All of this means that it will take you around 327 years to get all the stuff you could get relatively quickly for free in
Yeah, you just spend the money and you save time. It's fine.
Overwatch 1. Better get playing. Also, there's now a new hero every other season, and they'd be locked behind the later levels of the season pass. Your options are, spend every minute of your life grinding for them.
Or just pay for it and then you get the new thing. And then it's fine. But if you don't, these new heroes are probably really strong, so, you know, you have to do it. Damn, man, that sucks. But, you know, the money is good, right?
Or pay up.
Give me money.
In Overwatch 1, they were unlocked straight away.
Yeah.
Fans don't take kindly to these changes. But
No
then in May
shit.
2023, Blizzard comes out again. So, that PvP hero campaign that we've been advertising, and was pretty much the sole reason we made the sequel in the first place,
Yeah.
pretty much completely scrapped. No more talent trees or hero missions. Instead,
And you have to think, right? Like, this had to have been their plan from the start. This had to have been the plan from the start. Had to have been. Like, there's no way that they put out nothing, right? They put out fucking nothing. And then they're like, yeah, we're not putting it out at all. But, you know. So, the way the Battle Pass works is, you could play it a lot, or you could just spend a couple bucks, you know, you can just get some Overwatch bucks, which, by the way, you have to spend real money to get the Overwatch bucks. Then you have to spend your Overwatch bucks to get the thing. You know, like, it's not that bad, right, guys?
we're just gonna pepper some PvE missions around every few seasons. This was essentially
Yeah,
the
what the
entire
fuck?
selling point for the sequel. Some of the remaining story content is still planned, with its first release on August 10th. But when it finally releases, it's only 3 missions.
Yeah.
Blizzard is saying the game won't be getting any more story missions until at least 2024.
Like,
It
it's a
also added
fucking joke.
Overwatch 2 to Steam.
It's
and it
truly a
instantly
fucking
becomes
joke.
the worst reviewed game of all time there.
For now.
The year is now 2023, and Blizzard's reputation
Here we
has
go.
never been worse. So when Diablo 4's release approaches, people are cautious. But on the 5th of June, the game launches. And it's surprisingly good. There are some issues here and there, but reviews are mostly positive, and over 10 million people log in and play.
Yeah, Diablo 4 was perfectly fine at launch. It was perfectly fine at launch. I didn't have any issues with Diablo 4 at all at launch. I played it a lot. It was only an issue once people started getting to the end game and realized there's fucking nothing here. Like, there's actually nothing in the end game. And then people started to realize itemization is fucking garbage. And then people started to realize that you have to look at every single fucking piece of gear. Like, they did not do the end game justice at all. They tried to make it more complicated to like appease the PoE players and take that player base as well. But the way they did it was adding in a ton of gear affixes that don't mean a fucking thing. They completely don't understand why PoE is popular. They took what they think, and this is what I was saying earlier too, they took what they think is popular, why the game is popular, and they put that in the game, and then it's not popular, and then they're like, well, what the fuck? It's such... Like, you have to be so far removed to not to not get it.
Making Diablo 4 Blizzard's fastest selling game of all time. For the first time in years, things are actually looking up.
The only reason it was the fastest selling game was because they had a few celebrities do ads for it. And it was the Diablo name with the promise of it being darker than Diablo 3. Because Diablo 3 wasn't that dark of a game, right? Like, you had fucking, like, Whimsyshire, which was a land of unicorns. That's not a dark game. So it was a promise to return to form. And by the way, the game is substantially darker than Diablo 3. I would almost argue Diablo 4 is close to Diablo 2 in terms of how dark the game actually is.
And this game was live service, meaning it would receive 3 seasons of content for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
the first of which was launching in July.
Perfect.
A month later, and in July, Season 1 of the game drops. It is disastrous, and Reddit goes into a complete meltdown. Turns out, everything gets a big nerf, including the Metacritic score. The Sorcerer class, which was already underpowered, is hit especially hard. Then there's the end.
Yeah, again, you have to be so far removed. Like, it takes... You could put a junior dev, a developer assistant on reading forums and then relaying that information to their boss to try and make decisions that are good for the game. And maybe that does actually happen and it's just not listened to, but holy shit, it does not take a game dev degree to figure this shit out. It doesn't.
Enemies being overpowered, much less XP, a bunch of reskinned dungeons and enemies, barely any new content, and zero quality of life changes.
Yeah, and they can't do basic fucking math, right?
Everything here is wrong.
One streamer on Twitch tries to explain why the season isn't that bad. Here's how that goes.
Explosion is at... I actually just lost my hardcore character while trying to explain this to you. I changed my mind. I hate this season.
And it's...
DM has some pretty funny takes, right? Like he 180s so fast, I love it. His content is so funny to me.
Seems Blizzard...
I don't blame him, by the way, it's just funny.
Also has a bit of a fixation on the...
Battle Pass, Battle Pass, Battle Pass,
Battle Pass.
Battle Pass, Battle Pass.
Speaking of which...
And yeah, that's what I mean, by the way, by being so far removed, is people don't give a fuck about the Battle Pass. They want a game that fucking plays good. They want a game that they can log in and just play the game. They don't want to have to look through an inventory of gear every time they do something when all of it is garbage. Like, how hard is a loot filter to put in when a loot filter is basically a true false? It's just a line of true false. That's all it is. Does this item have X? If yes, then show it. It's not that hard. I don't get it. And that's what people want, by the way. Like, you can look through and this is made even more so by the fact that Last Epoch's loot filter is so good, and the Last Epoch devs are still thinking about making it better because they want the game to be good. Like, so there's this thing known as planned obsolescence. Apple was getting sued for it. I don't know if that lawsuit is done, but it almost makes me think that like they don't want this game to last because they want to put out something new which will make them more money.
It gives paid players 666 platinum. The cheapest item in the store is 800.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is also a complete fucking joke, right? Like, everybody knows it.
Also, back when Blizzard was designing the menus for the game, they decided to place the Activate Premium battle.
I did this, by the way. I did this and it made me upset. And unironically, this is what made me quit. I did this and an hour later, I uninstalled the fucking game. It made me so upset.
Pass button right next to the button.
Because I didn't want to use it on this season because I wasn't enjoying this season. It unironically made me uninstall the game.
Pressing to see your season progression.
Ooh, that's kind of small.
There's also no confirmation button,
yeah.
So if you want to check your progression and accidentally misclick, congratulations, you've just purchased it. There are multiple other confirmation buttons for other menu options in the game. So Blizzard's last few years...
Yeah, but those confirmation buttons don't make them lose money.
Blizzard is now worse than Bethesda!
It had slowly become clear to people. With overreach from Activision, more fiscal concern, and most of the original talent having left the company, among other things.
It seems obvious, right, that if they were to focus on the game, they wouldn't need to focus on the fiscal issues. Because if they were focusing on the game, the fiscal issues wouldn't be fiscal issues because they would be selling a lot of games. Right? Like, that seems obvious. It seems like you don't need to think about it that hard. That if you make a good product, people will come. And like, while this isn't always true, it's not always true, but in games it is. Right? Like, take Dragonflight, for example. Dragonflight was supposed to be the return to good WoW, and it sold like fucking crazy. Diablo 4 was supposed to be a return to form, because that's what people wanted, that's what the community wanted, and it sold like fucking crazy. And I can't imagine how much their player base has fallen off. I actually don't know how much it's fallen off because we don't have the fucking numbers. I would love to have the numbers from Blizzard.
Maybe Blizzard wasn't the company it once was, and after a back to off.
I don't even know if there's a single original dev working at that fucking place. There can't be. It went from the people running the company, it went from them being developers, game developers with the desire to make good games, to a company that only cares about their personal wallets. And by the way, I read another article that was talking about CEO incomes and how Kotick was taking in $155 million a year. And the Nintendo CEO takes in like $2 million a year. And funny enough, I think Nintendo makes better games. I think Nintendo makes much better games than Activision Blizzard. Breath of the Wild was a really good game. For me, anyways. And I think to most Legend of Zelda players. Tears of the Kingdom, it was not as good of a game to me as Breath of the Wild, but it was still a really good game. And they do have some funny things, right? Like they have, you know, how many fucking Mario Kart games are there? But those are all still good games. And they're all still being worked on and innovated, and we get better maps all the time. We have the ability to play old games on the Switch. You just pay a little bit of money, which I'm perfectly fine for, and you can play like N64 games on the Switch. I have an N64 and most games for the N64, so it doesn't bother me. But now I can play it on the Switch. I don't fully know what I pay for it. I think I pay $60 a year. It's not bad. It's really not bad to have that functionality. They do need to add more games, like I wish there was some GameCube games on there, etc. But, you know, hopefully one day we'll get there.
This mandate in 2023, even more talent is leaving. So much.
You know what's funny about this is they do this and then they double down. I don't understand. I really don't understand. Do it like, okay, so it's like a semi-return to office, right? Like this is how they should do it. In my mind, this makes the most sense. So it's like every like Wednesday and Friday, you have to come in. Just do that. And then that could be the creative days, right? Because the whole point is they need people in the office for the creative ebb and flow to like flow through the office and whatever else the fuck they said. Which, I mean, maybe I get, you know, it's a lot easier to bounce things off of other people when you're right beside them, but just have days for those, right? Like have like Wednesdays and Fridays be your creative days, and then let people work at home. It would cost the company so much less money to do that than what they're doing.
Talent.
And literally right here, loss of talent is forcing producers to create crisis maps in development planning. Which means they've lost so many people, they're having to decide what to cut and what to work on. Diablo 4 being one of those games. WoW being one of those games.
Blizzard is now actually creating crisis maps.
Yeah, they're creating crisis maps of what we can or cannot ship. That is a loss of capacity we're facing. When all they have to do, like, am I the only one confused by this? All they have to do is just have specific days for people to come in. That's it. Just have Wednesdays and Fridays, or fucking Fridays only, or only Saturdays. Have them required, have them mandatory, so it's not optional. So like, you know, there's just days where nobody comes in, because that's not what you want also. But just have specific days, and then have other days they can sit at home and work on the game. All it takes is one single piece of software on their computer to make sure they're actually working. I had this my dad put this software when I was a kid on my computer. This is old technology, and I'm sure it's substantially better than it was.
For what content they can and can't get done. But with the acquisition from Microsoft, who's currently focusing on making good exclusives to slap on their Game Pass,
Obviously, Microsoft hasn't done anything yet, but obviously they haven't had the time to, right? Like, they just took them over not that long ago. I think it was like three or 4 months ago they took over. That's not enough time to actually do anything. And realistically, that's not enough time to see much of changes. So I am still, maybe this is hard, Cope. I'm still hopeful that we can see something happen. I believe D4 was put on the Game Pass. I believe that's a thing that happened. That's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing. Because it gets more people in the game. I don't give a fuck if they lose a little bit of money, because those people weren't going to play the game anyways. They weren't going to touch the fucking game anyways. So just put it on the Game Pass and let people play the game for a little bit and then decide if they like it or not. I still think, maybe this is copium, I still think that Microsoft taking over was a win.
Some fans are hopeful for change, but for now, the outlook on Blizzard Entertainment
is bad. And again, I think the changes are not going to be visible for a while. Like, expecting changes to happen immediately as soon as the takeover happens, I think is really stupid. Right? Like, you need time for things to happen. These are massive companies we're talking about with billions and billions and billions of dollars. You don't even know what $1 billion looks like. That's how much fucking money it is. Like, these changes are going to take a substantial amount of time. It's fine. All I'm hopeful for is eventually. Because eventually, maybe someday, these games will be good again. Hopefully I'll still fucking be alive by then, but you know, it is what it is.
remains bleak. And don't forget about the epic, accurate, action-packed War Thunder.
Yeah, I'm holding out for Diablo 4. I think if the game is not good by like season 6, okay, like I'm not even playing Diablo 4. I'm just waiting for it to be good. I think if the game's not good by season 6, the game's not gonna go anywhere. Okay, fucking Diablo 3 had the same issue, right? It wasn't good for a while. It's fine. I have low to medium hopes for The War Within. You know, hopefully that'll be good. We'll see. I don't fully agree with them adding in more and more and more buttons. I think they should actually go the opposite way. I think they should be taking buttons out. I think they should make the game easier to play. Because the easier the game is to play, the more people can play the game at a higher level, which increases their enjoyment of the game, which directly increases their MAUs, their monthly active users for Blizzard. Because the more you enjoy the game, the more time you can waste on the game, which makes them more money. How many people play WoW, experience the content, and then unsub? How many people sub for a month and then leave? I think that's fairly obvious. It's a lot of people. You can see this in search trends on Twitch. Now again, as I said earlier, those only account for the people that are not casuals. But I feel fairly confident in saying that happens with the casuals as well, right? Like if you're a pet collector, you have maybe 10, 15 more pets to collect and then the season's done for you. You know? If you like the raid, you just wait until all of LFR is out, which takes, what, a month and a half, and then you've experienced the raid and then you're done. Like if you're a story gamer, all you care about is LFR, that's it. Because LFR is story mode, LFR is a joke. LFR allows you, which, by the way, I don't think LFR is bad. I think LFR being in the game is good, because it allows the casual audience to experience the story, whereas before that wasn't possible. And I also understand I'm probably in the minority thinking that, but I think for the entire casual audience, and by casual I don't mean casual in a negative light. I just mean casual is somebody who doesn't take in content from outside the game, right? I think that's the generally accepted version of what a casual is throughout most content spheres of the game, right? Is that a casual is just somebody who doesn't consume outside content of the game. So you just play the game and it is what it is, right?
A free-to-play PvP vehicle game. Sign up through the link in the description or comments for a
Yeah,
big
it's
bonus
a good video. I like it. It's a good video. I can't watch this because this is going to be another fucking hour and a bit.